The true ending of the universe in the future will not be a big explosion, nor will it be everything swallowed up by black holes. The real ending of the universe is far stranger than any science fiction movie or novel you've ever seen. I'm not joking. All of this was calculated by scientists, step by step, using serious physical formulas. You might think that something this absurd is far away from us, but in reality, the sun, the moon, and the countless stars we see above our heads every day already hide the clues to this ending. Right now it feels like those stars are just hanging there forever, doesn't it? But have you ever really thought about, what if one day all of this disappeared completely? What would the universe become? Now pay attention. I'm not talking about hundreds or thousands of years, but about a far distant future, trillions of years from now. By then, not only will all the stars be completely extinguished, but even time itself may lose all meaning. And what's even crazier is, the physical laws we now take for granted might actually fail completely. Sounds outrageous, right? Don't worry. Next, I'll take you to see for yourself what the universe's true final ending will actually look like. To be honest, the era we're living in now must count as one of the luckiest generations in the entire cosmos, because the universe today is filled with brilliant stars. It's like an incredibly extravagant light show, completely free for us to see. But there's one problem you may not have noticed. The universe wasn't born this lively, and what's scarier is, it won't stay this lively forever. Strictly speaking, stars are a luxury of the universe. Why? Because they burn fuel, hydrogen, which was produced all at once when the universe was born. After that, no new hydrogen was created. Each star is like it was given a fixed amount of fuel. When the universe began, the more it burns, the shorter its life. In fact, the lifespan of every star was already arranged by the universe long ago. Back in the 1930s, there was an Indian-American scientist, Subramanian Chandrasekhar. He made an astonishing discovery. He found that the fate of a star was strictly determined from the very day it was born. What a star ultimately becomes doesn't depend on its brightness, nor on how many planets orbit it. It depends on one thing only: its mass. A medium star like our sun will eventually expand into a red giant in its old age. That much everyone knows, right? But what few people realize is that when the sun becomes a red giant, Earth won't be swallowed directly. Instead, it will be pushed into a more distant orbit by the sun's intense radiation, becoming a lifeless, lonely planet. Later, the sun will slowly blow off its outer layers into space, leaving behind a super dense little star. Scientists call it a white dwarf, but the truly spectacular events belong to the most massive stars, stars with enormous weight, that, in their final second, completely blow themselves apart and become supernovae. In the instant of explosion, they release more energy than all the stars in the Milky Way combined, shining at once. Even stranger, some giant stars' cores, during the explosion, are compressed instantly into what's called a neutron star. A single spoonful of its matter would weigh more than 1 billion tons, so heavy you can barely imagine it. And some stars, even larger, even more extreme, at the moment of explosion, compress their cores so absurdly that they warp the space around them entirely and create the most terrifying thing in the universe: black holes. The death of such stars, if you could witness it up close, would be the most spectacular and the most terrifying sight in the cosmos. Think about the countless stars we see in the night sky. Who would imagine that their endings could be this insane? And here's the chilling part: these explosive deaths are only a small prelude before the true ending of the universe. The really bizarre things start happening only after all the stars have gone out. At that point, the universe will be filled with nothing but black holes. We've all heard of black holes. Most people think they're terrifying objects that swallow anything nearby, right? But the strange truth is, black holes don't actively swallow things. They can sit there, incredibly quiet, doing nothing, for billions, tens of billions, even hundreds of billions of years, without moving at all. They're black because their gravity is so strong that even light can't escape. But here's what many don't know: black holes don't stay black forever. They actually evaporate and disappear. Sounds unbelievable, but it's true. Stephen Hawking, as we all know, discovered that black holes aren't completely black. They actually emit radiation. Scientists named this phenomenon after him: Hawking radiation. Simply put, particles are constantly popping in and out of the vacuum around a black hole. Sometimes one falls in, the other escapes, and the escaping particle carries away a tiny bit of the black hole's energy. But don't get me wrong, this process is ridiculously slow. The larger the black hole, the slower it evaporates. For example, the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way to fully evaporate. Scientists estimate it would take at least 10 to the power of 100 years. That's vastly longer than the current age of the universe, 13.8 billion years. In other words, for the vast majority of the universe's future, the main characters will be these lonely, boring black holes. They'll float silently in the dark, doing nothing. Occasionally, they might run into a stray star fragment or a white dwarf and swallow it like a quick snack. But most of the time, they'll just drift, cold and alone, like the universe's loneliest ghosts. And the strangest part is, when they finally evaporate, there's no explosion, no flash of light. They just quietly, gently, slip out of existence. When the last black hole disappears, there will be no sound, no trace left behind. The entire universe will finally, completely, become an empty, silent stage. At this point, you might think, that must be the ending, right? Sorry, the end of the black hole era isn't even the strangest part. What comes next is 100 times weirder. Many people believe that after the last black hole vanishes, the universe will be truly empty. But that's not quite true. Even then, there will still be fundamental particles, like protons and electrons. They're so tiny, you might think they don't matter. But they're essential to the universe. They are the foundation of atoms, the foundation of all matter. For a long time, scientists believed that protons were stable, that they would never decay. But later they discovered it's not so simple. In the 1970s, two brilliant physicists, Howard Georgi and Sheldon Glashow, developed a grand unified theory. And they derived a shocking conclusion. Protons may not be stable after all. They could slowly decay on their own. Of course, their lifetimes are absurdly long. Scientists estimate a proton could last at least 10 to the power of 34 years. That's unimaginably longer than the current age of the universe. But the universe has plenty of time. Given enough time, even the smallest probability eventually becomes inevitable. So in the distant future, the last batch of protons in the universe will also decay, one by one. By then, not a single atom will remain intact, only an almost perfect vacuum, and the faintest, thinnest radiation will be left. Can you imagine such a scene? A universe with no atoms, no stars, no galaxies, not even the most basic particles. That would be the true doomsday of the cosmos. But do you think that's the end? Of course not. Even stranger things are still to come. We often talk about the vacuum. You might think, a vacuum is just empty space with nothing in it. But in physics, a vacuum isn't truly empty. It's space filled with energy fields. In other words, what you think of as nothing is actually hiding invisible, untouchable things. And here's the key problem. The vacuum of our universe might not be the most stable state. What does that mean? It's like a ball sitting halfway up a hill. It looks fine, but with the slightest nudge, it could roll down to the valley below. Scientists suspect that our universe's vacuum is exactly like this, an unstable, false vacuum. They call it a metastable vacuum. If that's true, then things get scary, because some random quantum fluctuation could cause one tiny region of the universe to suddenly collapse into a truly stable, true vacuum. This event is called vacuum decay. Once it happens, that bubble of true vacuum would expand outward at nearly the speed of light, instantly swallowing everything, erasing the old universe completely. The most shocking part, it's not an explosion, not a collision, no warning signs at all. It's just the laws of physics, rewritten instantly, everywhere. Everything we now take for granted, gravity, electromagnetism, even how atoms are formed, would be erased. The new vacuum might completely forbid atoms, or any complex structures. It might even forbid the existence of time itself, which means, in the path of that bubble, existence itself would become meaningless. You might think, this is so far away that we don't need to worry. But the creepiest part is, scientists say, vacuum decay could happen anytime, anywhere. It could be in some far corner of the universe, or inside a particle right in front of you. No sign, no warning. Thankfully, the probability is extremely low, but the universe has infinite time, so one day, it will happen. And here's the real kicker. When the old universe is erased, this new vacuum bubble could give birth to an entirely new universe. That's right. In theory, our universe itself may have been born from the ruins of a previous one. The cosmos is constantly being reborn, destroyed, reborn again, in endless cycles. Crazy, isn't it? But what if one day, the universe runs out of energy to reboot itself? Then you may wonder, what would remain? Scientists tell us that by then, the universe will truly become empty, cold, and silent. A completely motionless space. But here's the strangest part. Even in that ultimate emptiness, there's still one thing that can't stop. Quantum mechanics. Sounds complicated, but simply put, on the tiniest scales, space itself is always trembling randomly. Even if there's nothing left, space itself keeps quivering. Scientists discovered that if you wait long enough, quantum fluctuations could randomly create anything, and I mean anything, no joke. A grain of sand, a drop of water, even a complete human brain, could suddenly appear. That's right, a full brain, capable of thought, just popping into existence, in the middle of the void. Physicists call this bizarre phenomenon a Boltzmann brain, named after Ludwig Boltzmann, a physicist from more than 100 years ago. He suggested that in a completely random world, if you wait long enough, even the rarest, strangest events will eventually occur. In an infinitely long future, Boltzmann brains aren't just possible, they're inevitable. Even crazier, scientists think these randomly created, fully conscious brains could outnumber brains born naturally through evolution. In other words, in the far future of the cosmos, the majority of consciousnesses might only be fleeting Boltzmann brains, appearing for a moment, then vanishing instantly. If that's true, it completely overturns our understanding of existence and life. And if by then, the universe has no change, no difference, just endless random blips of momentary consciousness, what meaning could time possibly have? In fact, scientists believe time doesn't exist independently. It depends on change and difference. When the universe has no change, no difference, then time itself ceases to exist. In other words, at that stage, time neither ends nor continues. It simply loses all meaning. The universe, in the end, would truly become a place with no past, no future. After hearing all this, you might suddenly feel that humanity is unbelievably tiny in the face of such a cosmic ending. Our entire civilization so far is just a few thousand years old, but the stories we've just talked about are measured in trillions and quadrillions of years. From this perspective, humanity in the universe isn't even a blink of an eye. But think carefully. Have you noticed something strange? Even though humanity is so small and short-lived, we happen to be the ones who can tell this story. The universe took such an unimaginably long time, from the birth of stars to their extinction, from the formation of black holes to their evaporation. And in this epic, endless story, a tiny species like us emerged, capable of observing it, thinking about it, and even predicting its future. In other words, the birth, evolution, and fate of the universe seems like it was arranged as a grand performance, and we humans just happen to be the lucky audience, perhaps the only audience. We were born in a golden age of shining stars, not too early, not too late, just in time for the most exciting part. And unbelievably, we even understand the plot. We can even predict what might come next. So tell me, is that luck or misfortune? Maybe. The true meaning of human existence is that we have the chance to understand the universe and to understand ourselves, no matter what the universe ultimately becomes. At least in this very moment, you are alive in an age where you can grasp these truths. We can't decide the ending of the universe, but we can decide how we choose to see it.